Hello and welcome back, dear viewers, and happy 2026, and more importantly, happy second anniversary to me, to us. After many years of requests, I am finally going through with the Q&A video that I wanted to save for if I got 100,000 subscribers one day. The prospects of that day coming are very, very bleak at this moment. So instead, this will be my de facto 2-year anniversary special. How fun. This video is going to be split into 3 different sections. The first section are the more generic or the juicier questions that you'd find inside a Q&A, because I know Q&A videos tend to attract more of a general audience and you guys might not know me enough to care about the following sections. The second section is more personal to me and my channel for longtime fans. And the third section is something that I was really looking forward to do. Advice column section like you do in the magazines or radio shows, because I always wanted to run my own variety show, and this is pretty close to it. So stick around and watch the entire video if you're someone who likes listening to the sound of my voice for an extended period of time, because I'm gonna be going for like an hour, maybe even longer this time. Oh, before I forget, I'm trying to be more shameless this year, so please follow me on all my social media because I don't post on YouTube often. So if you want to hear my little whimsical thoughts, then follow me on Instagram and Pinterest. I might make a TikTok. If I do, then I'll link it here as well. Thank you. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, I'm someone whose audience consists exclusively of intelligent, mild-mannered, beautiful princesses. And what that means is that when I did do my Q&A poll, most of the questions were exclusively about my philosophy to life, my artistic vision, and my creative process, which I'm very grateful that you all see me as someone who has so much substance. I don't think that's very good for entertainment value alone, so I will of course be supplementing my Q&A with questions that I think would benefit a general audience as well. Okay, let's get started with a softball question. What are your favorite foods? For me, I love everything that's made of like potatoes. I love French fries, especially the skinny kind. I love mashed potatoes mixing with cheese and gravy. I love gratin, and I like everything that's starchy. How tall are you? I am probably around 182 centimeters tall the last time I got a health checkup, but you know, there's like a 1 centimeter tolerance, which is about 5'11" or so, 5'11", like maybe 5'11" and a half on a good day. But if you ever see me in real life, I'm basically always wearing platform shoes that are like this thick at least. So in practice, I'm usually about 6'1". What is your MBTI? Dear viewers, I know because I'm pretty awkward when it comes to public speaking in front of the camera, it's easy to see me as someone who's incompetent, dysfunctional, and somewhat ill, and all of these things are true. However, I'm actually an ENTP. I think that's the debater, that's what it is. I'm actually someone who really likes talking to people. I love interacting with strangers. I love making small talk. I love small talk. Sometimes I think it's a bit confusing that you think that I'm this super introverted person, because if I was, do you think I'd have such, you know, a fun, easy time talking to thousands of different people for many years and enjoying listening to the sound of my own voice for hours?
For me, the reason why I'm so isolated is mostly just because I'm one of those tech bro degrees where everyone's just on their laptops looking at job applications on LinkedIn the entire time. Like the guy sitting in front of me in class one time, I looked at the wallpaper because I'm voyeuristic, and there was that one famous painting that won the art competition that was AI. So people that I interact with in daily life are people that I find quite obnoxiously serious, and I think they don't really appreciate my whimsy.
What is your star sign? I am a Gemini, but I'm not really into astrology or like blood types. I'm O positive, by the way. So I don't really know what it means, but whenever someone asks me this question and I answer, they go, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," which I feel like I should be offended by it, but I don't know. What is your skincare routine? This is the question that I've gotten the most in my internet career. Like I get it very, 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 very often. And for me, I always just put it up to like lens tricks or like YouTube processing, cause it like downgrades the resolution so you can't see my pores and stuff. But the answer is I use a lot of tretinoin these days, and before I was on Accutane. My skin's actually improved quite a lot these days. If you want a dedicated night routine video or a skincare video, I can definitely do that. But yeah, I think it's very long and involved, so it would have to be in its own video. Let me know, and yeah, I can elaborate there. But my main recommendation is obviously just retinoids. Do you have a girlfriend? And the answer to this is simple, dear viewer. I would never betray you. I don't have a girlfriend. I have 52,432 girlfriends. I know 2025 has been a rough year for you, and 2026 might be even worse. But you know what brings me an insurmountable quantity of joy? To know that sometimes when you're in the corner of your room sobbing, you can turn on the computer, look up at me and think, wow, I was born in the same era as you, and suddenly all your problems melt away. So no, dear viewer, I would never commit the grave sin of giving myself to only one person. You is for everyone to share. That's a selfish, horrible thing for me to do, having a girlfriend. And it goes against my life's mission, to make all of humanity my girlfriend, and beyond. So yes, dear viewer, I do have a girlfriend. It's you. You're my girlfriend. I'm in love with you. I love you. And in that same vein, do you have a boyfriend? And I think the natural follow-up question to that is, why aren't you dating? And the answer to that is pretty realistic and simple. To be honest, I struggle a lot with myself. I think that ideally in a relationship, they should always be your first priority, and you should always make the time to understand someone else and to be very careful and patient with them. And I can't really exercise that on myself, even though if I should. So I don't think that I'm in a place to do that for someone else. What is your ideal type? My requirements are pretty simple. It's 1, be an earnest and reliable person. 2, always shower me with attention, reply to my text messages. 3, be so beautiful, accomplished, and out of my league that it makes me grovel at your feet, worship you, and debase myself. And 4, be a celebrity. So these are all very simple and direct requirements. Though, of course, my real ideal type is someone who likes all my videos, comments on all my videos, subscribes to me, pays for my membership, and interacts with me on a daily basis online. Viewers, 2026 is the year of my shamelessness, and I'm done pretending that I am not a YouTuber. I am. Like, subscribe, comment. Did you know that YouTube has a feature for doing voice note replies to comments now? So if you give me that sweet engagement, I'll record your outgoing, incoming voicemail notes for you if you want. Yeah, here's my 2026 bonus for people who've made it this far in the video. Comment and request. Describe yourself in 3 words. I really like the 3-word combo, sick, twisted, and boring from Audrey Hobart's Thirst Traps, but that's someone else's, right? So I would say that the 3 words that describe me are self-loathing, narcissistic, and hypocritical. If you were a mythical creature, what would you be and why? The dear member who asked me this question, I'm very disappointed in you, because I've actually answered this question indirectly in comments all the time, so you should implicitly osmose this information. It is not something basic like, I don't know, vampire or unicorn or Tressum or whatever. It is a demon lord. I am someone who grew up basically watching isekai anime every single day. And I love demon lords. I love the idea of being demon lord. I really like it. It's my favorite trope, especially like the, oh, I'm reincarnated into a game system type of demon lord. That's really fun. I would be like a demon lord of avarice and vanity. That'd be pretty cool. What are your favorite albums and song recommendations? I've already answered this question before, but since this is a dedicated Q&A video, I will answer it now as well. My favorite album of all time is and always will be Avril Lavigne's Let Go. I think obviously she was like, what, 17 when she released it, so the themes and the lyrics are juvenile and a lot of times like really outdated and misogynistic, and that's something, you know, like I'm not responsible for that, so let's not get into that. But I think when I listened to it as a kid, I was just thinking, oh, this is such a cool pop album. But when I revisit it nowadays as an adult, I'm thinking these are really universal emotions. The angst, like the feeling disconnected, the wanting to be seen naked as you truly are. I think even though she's not the most linguistically powerful songwriter, I think she conveys emotions in a really raw way. So my three B-sides are Naked, Anything But Ordinary, and Things I'll Never Say. And my favorite single from that album is I'm With You, and I listen to it whenever I'm having a hard time. So I listen to that song every single day. In terms of my favorite contemporary artist, it would be Audrey Hobart. I discovered her last year, and honestly, I think she gave me a new lease on life. I love Audrey Hobart. You might think it's weird that someone like me relates to her, but I don't think you need to be a 26-year-old white girl in LA to relate to her emotions. Like, I've never had an artist so vividly yet simply convey, feelings like self-loathing, grappling with their artistry, and not fitting in such a accessible way that makes me feel like I am her for those moments. Even if I have none of her life experiences, of course. Like, I'm not at the Grammys after party, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's so great, and I love how unconventional she is. And my favorite tracks from her album are Thirst Traps, Chateau, and Phoebe. I think that it's a great album, and I look forward to what she makes in the future. What are your anime recommendations? Oh, I've got so many. I've been going through kind of a hard time this winter and most of 2025. Whenever I'm going through a hard time, I like to watch inspirational, motivational anime about shoujo manga protagonists who are unconventional and they're grappling with their self-esteem or their body image or their career or their weight or whatever, and seeing them transform themselves, not necessarily aesthetically. My favorite subgenre these days is girl who feels that she's inherently flawed and everyone tells her that she is inherently flawed, but she rebels against that notion and she finds happiness anyway, even if it's not what she was looking for originally. So the number one anime that I would recommend right now is Skip Beat, which is about a girl called Kyoko who gets told all her life that she's not that special, she's not that pretty, but she was in a long-term relationship with this top male idol, and he treats her like a maid, and he breaks up with her, and she decides to get revenge by joining the entertainment industry no matter what, even though people call her homely, people call her boring, and her motivations are bad. It's to just get revenge on him, get on his level, and crush him and see him grovel. But along the way, she realizes even though she does have the innate talent to be an actress, she is getting rejected by directors here and there, and she doesn't get into the agency here and there because she doesn't have the desire to be loved by the audience and the passion for her craft to love what she's doing and to give out love freely. And you might think that that's very cheesy, but for me, I'm someone who does struggle with not giving love because I enjoy talking to strangers. I like having an audience, but the nice things that people say to me, I have trouble believing them, and I have trouble believing that I'm someone who deserves praise. And I think, as cheesy as it sounds, watching the show really helped me grapple with that. So I think my main takeaway from that show is a New Year's resolution as well. It's to try to see myself the way that other people see me, and trying to not assume that other people will talk about me the way that I talk about myself. I think that's a very big thing that I got from this show. And the second anime that I would recommend on my sub list is Plus Size Misadventures in Love. And it's a similar premise to Skip Beat. It's about this overweight girl called Yumiko who lived her whole life being told that she was ugly, she was worthless, because she was overweight and because she was gloomy. And she internalized all these things that people said about her, and she believed them. And she fell in love with someone, her boss, that she doesn't know it's her boss, who was super beautiful, and she had a near-death experience, and she basically almost died thinking, I'm worthless, I don't deserve to look at someone like you, I can never stand next to you, and all these familiar thoughts that I'm sure most of us have had about ourselves. And then instead of taking the, oh, she's skinny now route, or wow, everyone magically loves her route, the show is about her not caring that people still criticize her for her weight, and people still like gaslight her, and people still look down on her, but she realizes, because she had like amnesia and she forgot about her like body dysmorphia, that she's great, she's amazing, she's talented, and she's a different person now. Not because she looks different, but because she feels so different that people around her can't help but fall in love with her for her inner radiance. And I think even though the premise is tired, and even though we've seen, you know, thousands of these movies and TV shows with this setting, I really enjoyed this one because I think, once again, she's a really lovable character, and I was like laughing every episode, and I think it's just quite a relatable show. I think that's my second recommendation. And my third recommendation is Tomlin's B-side. It's still ongoing. Do I like this show as much as the other two shows? No. But I think it's a fun time waster anime. It's very fun, it's very cute if you're into like the idol ex-fan type of relationship. And I think Utage is quite a relatable protagonist, and I think Tamlin is quite a relatable love interest. They're quite funny, to be honest. Every time I watch Tamlin's B-side, it reminds me to take myself less seriously. Not because I'm, you know, a super famous like J-pop idol, like Tamlin is, but because honestly, the things that I say to myself when I'm alone when the camera is off is comparable, if not significantly worse, than what he says to himself. And it makes me think, maybe I just need to fall in love with my housekeeper, or maybe I need to become a housekeeper and have an idol fall in love with me, and maybe that's what I need. Maybe I'm done. You quits the entertainment industry. And my final recommendation is not a shoujo anime, but actually what you might think is a harem anime, but it's actually more of like a regular romance show. It's My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu. It's got a few seasons and it's wrapped up fairly neatly if you're into that, unlike the other shows that I mentioned. It's on the surface a traditional, well, it is in essence a traditional love triangle story with some like harem elements to it. But I think the reason why I love this show so much is because I love Yui Gahama. When I was a teenager and watching this show for the first time when it was airing, I just thought, oh, I like this spunky pink-haired girl, she seems fun, but I'm not sure why. And then I think having some realizations about myself as I age, I rewatched it and I realized the performance she puts on, the smile that she smiles, and her need to not be a girl that someone feels sorry for and to hide her own needs even at the cost of her own happiness, because she can't be someone that someone looks down upon, even though she knew from the start that she was born different. She's not the long black-haired princess girl type, the traditional beauty that the protagonists always go for. She knows that she was the doomed second lead from the start, but she tries anyway, and she fights for what she wants, even if she knows that it's futile and she's, different. I think as I age, I feel like I've also become someone like that. I feel like I feel like I'm also the type of person who would rather suffer in silence than have someone look down on me or feel like I'm a burden. And I think I was like that for a long time until I decided, I'm kind of done with this. I just want to be uniquely and the most raw version of myself, and take it or leave it. If you've known me for so many years and we've been friends for so long, and you feel uncomfortable because I have needs and I'm not smiling all the time, and you think I'm difficult, then maybe we shouldn't hang out anymore. I think maybe if you're like me, you'll probably relate to that feeling too. I'm not the traditional type that people look up to. I'm not, the perfect person. I'm not so and so. I'm not cute and shy and vulnerable. I'm messy and deluded, and I smiled through it, and I tried to suppress these things because I thought I'd be more likable if I was like, just, the traditional type, but I'm annoying. And I think rewatching it helped me realize, because I'm like screaming at her through the screen, you know what I mean?
Before we continue, please consider joining my channel membership. It's the only place on YouTube where you can get delicious looking badges next to your name and handmade custom emojis to use in comments. You also get access to hours and hours of relaxed bonus content in between my uploads, and you get to join the likes of Annette Moriori, Valencido, Chihyo Kinesis, Zeno, Angeli, Potato Potato, Milk Tea, Estelle, Angel, Simon Says, Sammy, U-Wife aka Dante, and Inez, and also all of the other beloved members, regardless if you want to sign up for shoutouts or not. With the base tier always being the lowest possible price YouTube allows for your region, anyone can become a member. Now, back to our scheduled programming.
If you created a shoujo manga, what would the premise be? I apologize if the person that I'm referencing is still watching my videos, because I've mentioned this story twice, but I won't get into it. My setting is inspired by a comment that I thought was very romantic, even though I know it wasn't intended that way, but that's just how my mind works. I'm someone who's constantly thinking of settings and premises and like, oh, this would be a fun romance movie, this would be a fun coming of age movie. I've actually thought about this question quite often. For me, if I were to direct my own shoujo anime, it would be a bit like Tomlin's B-side.
Basically, imagine this. You are a girl in your late 20s living in the countryside, and all your life you've done old-fashioned Gothic Lolita, Yaru, whatever you can name, like, you've done it. And you've been struggling all this time because even though when you're young, your friends played along with you, and you got to, embrace this subculture together, they all moved out into the city, they all tied their hair up, dyed their hair black, put on neutrals, and they worked cubicle jobs. And you stay behind the countryside, and every time you go to town, every month that passes, a store that you like, that stock clothes that you used to wear, shuts down because people just don't wear those anymore. And you go to work for a few years, and you live a gray, monotonous existence, until you look on the screen and you see, well, it could be an influencer, but like just for sake of separation, let's say it's an idol, and you see your favorite idol, and he gives you the strength to realize that your life can be colorful too, and so you resolved to yourself, I might be a bit older, but I'm gonna work hard, I'm going to train, I'm going to live, I am going to work so hard that one day I will be the idol, and we'll stand on stage together, and I'm going to tell you how I feel. And throughout her journey, she obviously gets involved in the music industry, with the idol industry, with the fashion industry, and she is celebrated for how different she is. And every weekend she goes to the record store or like the coffee shop beneath her entertainment agency's building, and she talks to the barista, and she talks about, oh, I wanna meet my idol so bad. He's on tour, but someday I'm gonna meet him, and maybe I'll tell him how I feel. And then the second lead, the barista guy's just like, yeah, I hope so. I'm happy for you. And he's like suffering on the inside. And then one day, she goes to the studio, the recording studio, to like the music show, and they're in the green room, and she knocks on her idol's door, and she's like thumping like her heart out. She bought like she has her handwritten confession note with like presents for every group member, and she knocks on the door, and she finally meets her idol. But instead of like the idol like him back in the traditional way, oh, I'm saved, like, oh, I'm a princess and I gotta meet my prince, because that would be a bad ending, no? Instead he like, kamero, pa, pa, and then he goes, oh, thank you, little kin. And then she realizes, yeah, the guy that I've been in love with this entire time, he's not pure at all. He's actually a playboy, and he does this to every newly debuted girl. Oh, wait, what's wrong with me? I've been a fool, but I still love him. And then she runs away, you know, in like the dramatic sugar one. And she goes back to the record store, and obviously, the guy's just like, ha! Come on, again. And he's just like, can't you see that I'm the one who understands you? I've been here all along. What can't you see? You belong with me. And then she goes, Kim. But then, no, that's too boring. Then she goes back to the music show because it's unprofessional bitch. And she watches her idol perform on stage and she thinks, oh, I'm still so in love with you. We've come so close, but we're from different worlds. But I would still love you even if you were kind of a jerk. And then after the stage ends, she goes to his green room and then she knocks on the door. But before he opens, the idol's group member comes to her and then she gets pulled aside. And then he goes, bang! And she goes, what? And then he goes, why are you looking at him? You should be looking at me. I can treat you even better than that. And then he goes like, you know, that chin thing, like, and then he forces a kiss on her. And then the idol, the original idol, he opens the door to see his bandmate like kissing the protagonist, and then he gets jealous. And then the protagonist is just like, what? But I thought that you liked him. Yeah, and that's my plot. Yeah.
Have you ever met a celebrity before? What were they like? For me, JB, I haven't met a celebrity before, but occasionally, I'm around in circles where people I know are pretty involved in the entertainment industry and they know celebrities firsthand or secondhand.
So I do hear some fun rumors occasionally. Actually, a couple months ago, I was talking to my friend, like an old friend, maybe after like months and months and months, and we were just talking about the entertainment industry, and they were like, oh, did you know that X celebrity, blah, 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 blah. And in my head, I was thinking, oh yeah, I totally buy this rumor. But in real life, I was like, no, that's hearsay. You shouldn't spread this. This is horrible misinformation. This is no, because I'm defending the privacy of celebrities I look up to. So that's my civic duty. Of course, I walked away from that conversation thinking, oh wow, I guess sometimes the delusions of fans and the rumors are true, huh? And I was also thinking, I know something you don't, even though you want to. But
yeah, obviously, I'm not gonna say like which industry or like, you know, who the person is or what the rumor is, because well, you know, I could be making this up. I could be talking about like Bollywood or like Antarctica or something, you know. What do you think regarding the future of your career? And what's something out of your comfort zone that you'd like to try? I grouped these two questions together because they have the same answer. And the spoilers there. This goes back to what I was saying about Audrey Hobart, but she really gave me a new lease on life. Audrey, she's unconventional, she's atypical, and she made me realize something that I was hungry for. You know, like for a long time, I was thinking, you know, I just want to become part of the idol rich. Maybe I'll just become like an influencer and I'll just like show things on like short form content. Maybe I'll just like do whatever, right? It doesn't really matter. I just want to like hang out and do whatever. But I think that's why I'm not very good at social media. But I think as time went on, I'm realizing that maybe I'm idolizing and feeling envious of the wrong people, because I had this like unease in my heart, right? I was thinking, what am I gonna do? I don't feel like I'm cut out for like a corporate job. But I don't really want to be an influencer forever. Even if I was successful, I don't like being an influencer. I don't think I'd find fulfillment in it. And when I heard Audrey, you know, on stage, when I saw her lyrics, and she was going against everything that pop music has been, like in the mainstream, right? Her image isn't super curated. She doesn't wear any makeup. Even though she gets flack for that, which I find very annoying. I saw this comment and it made me want to like stab the person, because like, why is if your only criticism about someone is that, then it says more about you than the performer. But I digress. I'm someone who loves the arts. I taught myself video editing, obviously. I taught myself digital art myself. I taught myself traditional visual art myself back in the day. So I really like making art and all that stuff. And it never occurred to me that I could make music, and I feel like I'd probably be good at it. So I bought a bunch of equipment. I have my guitar, obviously, and I have like a MIDI controller, and I bought Logic Pro for full price the week before they announced the subscription. That's like something stupid cheap, like $4 a month or something. If you do music production or you have any tips, then please let me know. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, that's my goal, and that's something that's out of my comfort zone. And what was I saying about Audrey? She just made me realize that you can carve out your own niche in the world. If there's no one like you so far, it doesn't mean that you'll fail. It doesn't mean that there's no appetite or demand for it. It just means you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone and make the demand. And that's something that I want to take into account and, you know, just absorb as my mantra. If you could meet someone dead or alive who would be recency biased, but if you ask me today, I would say Audrey Hobart because she's my idol and my personal hero.
I do this thing where I like project my own emotions onto other people a lot, but I think Audrey, because like if we're being honest, she's very unconventional with the pop music scene, and I see a lot of hate comments that I honestly find really annoying. I wish I could report them all. And she puts on a brave face, but I feel like if I was in her position, I would be really upset. I have this fantasy of whenever I'm sad, someone will come up to me and shake me and say, you know, you're not fat, you're not ugly, you're fine just the way you are, and you should look at yourself the way I see you, you're worthy of every success in life. But that never comes. So I'd like to do that for someone that I look up to. My fantasy, if I can meet anyone dead or alive, is I want to meet my idol on a day where she's feeling unsure of herself, and I want to shake her, and then I want to be like, you've come so far, even though everyone says that you're different, and like you don't even know, but like you're getting a new lease on life, and all the girls that made fun of you in high school, like you said, they're the ones in marketing, and you're the ones on stage, and you're the star, and who cares about the guys that rated you, like so and so, blah 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 blah. And you know, like my fantasy is to just give someone else that I look up to what I want to give myself, I guess. Yeah.
How did you start your YouTube channel? Did you always want to start one? And what were your goals? For me, the YouTuber that I've always looked up to is actually a white man. It is Scott Wozniak, Scott the Woz. And you might think it's like a bit of an odd thing to say, but even though he's a video game essayist, he builds his own sets, he has his own characters, he makes like all the assets like basically from scratch, and he just injects so much whimsy and narrative and like visual art, music even, into his videos. When a video essay, it's usually just like a slideshow, and I would see his videos and I would think, wow, I don't know how I would do that, but I want to create my own universe too. And so I was watching his videos in college, and then when I graduated college, I came across like a lot of different blogging channels, like Miss Tada was a big influence, for example, but not like the reason I started. I would say it's more so Scott. But yeah, I graduated college, and during my college life, going back to my Yui Gahama point, I think from 18 to like 21-ish, no, like I think from 17 to about 21, I had this idea inside my head that I was inherently flawed. Actually, no, I still think that. But I would try to compensate for that idea by living perfectly. I put down my paintbrush, I stopped wearing like, well, I mean, I didn't wear colorful clothes then. I was like kind of emo back then. I would only wear like pale neutral clothes. I wear like iron shirts and like sweater vests, and I would, you know, be president of the degree. I would volunteer for all of like the gigs. I would do like all the campus ambassador stuff. I would do the course representative stuff. I would, you know, hang out with these like rich, accomplished people with like 50 internships, and their aspirations are to like work at a consultancy or like do a startup or whatever, right? And I thought, if I just lived like them, then maybe people would finally start to respect me. Maybe people would finally take me seriously. Maybe people would stop saying that I'm odd or that I act different because I'm, you know, I would just like laze around all day, and I just like be with my little paintings, and I wouldn't really go out much. But that day never came, and I looked up to this one classmate who got into one of the most elite programs for like business management in the world, where basically it's like a factory for like MBB kids, and I got into that one as well. And so I would just, like the summer after I graduated, I would lie in bed in the middle of the night until 5 a.m. every night thinking, is this it? Am I living someone else's life? Do I even like these people? These people aren't my friends. They still think I'm weird. These people don't care about me or my well-being at all. Life is just networking for them. What am I doing? I guess that I'm smart academically, but I'm so many other things. And I was just thinking, I'll never forgive myself. I'll never forgive myself. I am freshly in my 20s, and I wasted my life. Maybe I should have just gone to art school or like, I don't know, something different and fun and on the edge. And maybe I could have gone to the entertainment industry or something. But I wasted my youth living someone's factory preset life, chasing ambitions that were not mine, and my parents didn't even pressure me to do that. I was doing that because I hated myself and not because I wanted to. And I thought, no. So I took the year off, and my dad was not very happy about that. And I just did nothing, and I just, for the first, like, I don't know, 6 months, I just sort of wallowed in my own misery. Every night I would just think, I'm old, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm lonely, no one likes me, my friends all have easy lives, they all have big support systems, big families, they're not from the type of home that I'm from, they don't have the same problems as me, and I'm going to be miserable for the rest of my life, because I was not born like them, and had, like, you know, neat lives where instead of like chaotic minds where all you want is everything, but you doubt yourself all the time. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's kind of heavy. I would just think like that, like every day. Until I decided, you know what, I wanna start a channel. I think, you know, I want to be famous, I want to be beloved, I want to receive love. I always had this dream of being someone that people looked up to and people respected, and to do something special that only I can do. I made my video, and the rest is history.
Well, obviously I'm not there yet, and my daily life in the present day is still going to school and hearing, oh, like, how did you have an interview? How was biking to school? Did you beat your personal best in like Run app? Or like seeing people with like the JP Morgan AI browser, and asking about like some like design, like tech paper, making small talk, and my serotonin doesn't go up at all when I talk to the people that I see in daily life. And every day right now I'm still thinking, God, I wasted my youth, I'm old, and I'm someone cool, I'm conceited, right? So I'm thinking I should be part of the glitterati, why am I not? But you know, I'll keep fighting, or I'll die trying.
What was your first reaction to the attention you got when you first started your channel? For me, I did not get attention when I first started my channel. I made my first video on New Year's Day 2024, and then I posted my second vlog, which eventually went viral the next week after that. In between my first upload in January and my second video, which blew up in, I want to say, April, I had a pretty slow, steady growth. I got to 1,000 subscribers in about 3 months, just without any like viral traction, with only like a few thousand views, which I would felt pretty accomplished about.
Like, it wasn't like super fast or anything, but then I changed my the loser core blog from the original title, which was like a long sentence, to what it is today, and then I guess people thought it was novel and they clicked on it. But in between that time, I had a friend, she sent me a blog post about how to stand out with your vlogs for people who are making videos. And I think when I got sent that article, I was thinking, so someone who knows me thinks that I'm not special, that I don't stand out, and that I'll need an article to find success. And I was just thinking,
I think that I am special. I think that I can stand out. I think that I'm unique and novel. Why don't you? And of course, I doubted myself at the time. But then nowadays, years later, I sometimes see kids like reference those videos, like when they like mention me in their vlogs, and use that as like a benchmark to make their own videos, which I found pretty interesting. So I guess that was like the key takeaway, that even though you might think that your work is like cringe or whatever, or not that good in the beginning, one day they'll become the classics, and people will see them as like, oh, the new refreshing debut from back in the day. which I, that's all I can really ask for, even though, to answer your question, my reaction was, huh? Why this video? It's not that good. I made it in 6 days. How do you deal with bad comments or not becoming popular immediately? I answered the not popular part like a bit before. It feels like a struggle and you'll have a lot of self-doubt, but one of these days, maybe if you look, you'll realize that it's not the quality or your personal fault. It's just there are some variables that are out of our control. That's how you handle that. And in terms of hate comments, I can say that I honestly don't get any these days, and I haven't gotten like real hate comments for years even. But there was a period of time where I did get hate comments and death threats like every day for like a week or two when my video blew up. I think when it comes to just any form of media that girls pay attention to, it doesn't have to be made for girls, right? There's a lot of insecure men who feel the need to tear it down and to make fun of it to protect their own masculinity, kind of like what we had in the 2010s when people were hating on One Direction or Justin Bieber because they had a majority female audience. And for me, it didn't affect the way that I saw myself because I'm old enough to know when weirdos are weirdos, and I don't need to pay attention to that. But the reason why I leaned into a cute, bubbly concept, even though I'm a guy, and it's not that I don't like that kind of stuff, but I definitely did like lean into that core precisely because I wanted to make content that aliens other men so that I would stop getting death threats. And has it worked out for me? Yes. And I feel like I'm comfortable enough to do like a different concept this year, so I don't think I'll be doing like cute bubbly sticks anymore. I'm sorry for those of you who like that. But it's my second year. The change is gonna happen. I'm gonna catch man disease within the next 2 years, you guys. Actually, this is like I'm saying something about later in the video. Like, it's one of my goals. I want to be sexy. I want to be cool. I want to be cool and sexy. I don't think it's coming to me. But within 2 years, guys. How does it feel to have so many people like and appreciate your work? Kind of like what I said earlier. For me personally, it's quite difficult for me to process the words that people say to me. Maybe it's a defense mechanism. I think, oh, that's pleasant. I reply, and then that's it. I think even though I don't feel it in my head, I do feel it in my body when I upload. I'm like psyched, and I like camp out in the comment section when I first upload, and I'm just like eagerly awaiting to see what you guys will say about me. So the feeling is anticipation. Yeah, I anticipate talking to you guys because I enjoy talking to my viewers, especially because I take so long to reply and I like to catch up. What advice do you have for shy or young kids who want to start making content?
For me, I just want to say that you're not like lame for feeling anxious, because there are so many different variables that would make anyone anxious. Being perceived, showing your face, your body, your voice on the internet, they're all quite nerve-wracking things because the internet can be a very judgmental place, even more so than real life, especially if you're filming in public. So I do understand why you feel anxious, but I'd say that there's like two main points. What are you more afraid of? Are you afraid of dying as somebody who will be forgotten and who works on like their 9 to 5, and you feel the regret and pain from not pursuing this thing that you want to do? Or does the pain of getting started hurt more to you? That's something for you to decide. And for the second one, piece of advice I like to give, that I see quite often in my comments, people ask me this sort of question. It's, I'm not ready yet. How do you combat the feeling of I'm not ready yet? I also struggle with this a lot. I have the feeling of I'm not ready yet, like the 6 months leading up to my first upload. And in my head, you're obviously thinking, I need to be perfect. I need to master every skill. I need to be so attractive that everyone loves me. I need to be so well-spoken. And that's not true. I think, at the end of the day, the joy of like watching influencers isn't that they're perfect necessarily, but to see them grow and change. And if I waited until I was perfect, I would have just never started. I would not be here at all. And you gotta get over yourself. You gotta say, you know what? I feel bloated. I feel gross. I feel untalented today. But I need to upload something, so I'll do it. And I've had to tell myself that a lot quite often. Oh, a third one that I just thought of. Sure, maybe your friends will make fun of you, maybe people will make fun of you, maybe strangers will make fun of you. But do you really care about the opinion of someone who is disrespectful? For me, right? If you send your video to me in the comments and ask like, oh, can you please check out my channel? I've been such a huge fan for so long. I'd probably give it a go. I'd watch it for like 5 minutes and I'd go about my day. I'm not going to like open a group chat and be like, hey, look at this loser. You know what I mean? Like you looked up to me, right? And you probably look up to other like public figures or celebrities even. Do you think that people with busy lives who you look up to for the character, or you think they're cool or whatever, do you think we're sitting around making fun of you? No. The people who are making fun of you, they're probably gross, ugly on the inside and out, and living miserable lives where instead of turning their misery inward into art like I am, they're hating on you for things that you can't control. So, that's why I hate comments. I don't think you should pay attention to that if that's something that you're afraid of.
However, it is important to remember that I am a guy, and as a man, I am extremely privileged. I can say whatever I want. I can gain weight, lose weight, whatever. I can dress weird. My hair can look weird one day, etc. And people would think, oh my god, he's so cool, he's so free-spirited. And yeah, of course, I do get a lot of the criticism that people usually only reserve for women, and a lot of the harassment that people usually only reserve for women, because sometimes I get unfortunate in the algorithm. But just because you see me, someone who started in my 20s, and who's a man, have an easy time, that does not mean that you, a teenage girl, probably, will have an easy time, because you're still developing, people will see you as an easier target, and you'll have to deal with a lot of not safe for work things said to you. And that does not mean that you are uniquely a victim and flawed because you're not having as easy of a time as you. It just means that, unfortunately, in some positions, in most positions, it's inherently harder for women and minorities. So it would be irresponsible of me to pat you on the back and say, oh, everything's gonna be fine, because nothing is ever fine. Like, nothing's ever all completely okay. I'm sorry about that, but I need to be realistic. What are your least favorite parts about being an influencer? For me, I can't say that I have a least favorite part. Actually, no, that's a lie. I'll say my favorite part first, just so that it's like compliment sandwich. My favorite part of an influencer is simply talking to people. For me, I'm not an antisocial person, but I'm someone who's like kind of stuck on an island of like people that I will never really connect with, just fundamentally. And my friends, statistically it's odd, right? But they're all in long-term relationships. They all have big families. They all like have pretty like normal goals in life that can be achieved by like exams and applications and all of that, you know what I mean? So I get bored quite often, and I talk a lot, and I'm quite chatty. So it's quite boring for me. So I like being able to just like post a story, or post a YouTube post, or post a video, and just seeing like so many different people share their thoughts, or catching up on their own days, and share tidbits about their own life, and I think it's just the greatest thing. I think I just appreciate being able to be loved and appreciated by people who don't know me that well. I think I'm very grateful for that, even if it doesn't feel that way to me sometimes. I am quite grateful for that, because I think the way that I talk about myself to myself would be even worse if I didn't have so many people say such nice things to me. And my least favorite part about being an influencer is how easy it is to compare yourself. Of course, you compare yourself to everyone, people in school, people at your job or whatever. But being an influencer, you kind of see people who debuted after you rise, and the people that you looked up to reach meteoric heights. And if you stay stagnant, it's like, oh, what am I doing wrong? And of course, I know what I'm doing wrong, but it's like I can't help myself, and I just feel really powerless, because you see the numbers. Like in real life, you don't know exactly the daily numbers or weekly statistics of like everyone that you look up to, but here you can, so that's quite difficult, the comparison. How do you remember all of your parasocial relationships? I thought the wording of this question is kind of funny, but in essence, I will rephrase this question as, how do you remember all of your commenters, and how do you tell them apart? For me, practically speaking, I don't have that many viewers, commenters, like a few hundred, and it's not that taxing to me to just remember a few usernames and profile photos, as long as you guys keep them relatively consistent. And like for both, I'm someone who quite enjoys like talking to fans. Well, I don't like calling you guys fans, I like to call you guys your viewers, because I think fans is presumptuous. But I think for me, in any public facing role or like any like role where there's like, you know, you're here and you're I'm here and you're across there, I think that it's a basic courtesy to remember everyone's names, write them down if you can, remember every conversation you had, and greet everyone with a smile, because it's a privilege to have someone watch you. It's a privilege to have fans, and it's a privilege to have someone look up to you and take the time to write to you. You know, having someone write to you is a luxury, and I really, of course, I would never criticize someone for being bad at interacting, because I don't know the reasons why you guys have that. But for me, I think that it's my personal responsibility to make each and every person who, you know, comes to my channel feel as special and as involved as you make me feel. Now we're finally ready to start my advice column segment. Yay! We're starting off strong with, how do I find happiness in the future regarding my life and career? It's quite difficult for me to answer this question because I don't really have a career and I'm not very happy in life. But I do have some strong thoughts on this, so I'm going to share them with you anyway.
I would say, if I were to share my own experiences, you kind of have to work backwards. If you are living your life right now, and you wake up every day feeling tired, and it's hard to get out of bed, and you end the day thinking, why am I getting up every day? What am I working towards? Is this really my life that I'm living if you're doing like a certain career or a certain degree? Then I think that is your body and your mind trying to tell you that there's something deeply wrong and that you should do something about it. I heard this in a health lecture the other day. It's a different context, it's about like, physical pain, but it was like, pain is the body's way of telling you that something's wrong, and without pain, we'd die. So it goes back to what I talked about in Skip Beat, actually, like an hour ago. Kyoko, the reason why she felt this unease and sadness when she couldn't get into the entertainment industry in the first place, she thought it was just because, oh, this is the pain of giving up. But then she realizes, no, this isn't the pain of giving up. This is the pain of not trying and exhausting every single option before I get my goal. I think if you're feeling the pain that I feel right now of not exhausting every option to achieve your goal, then you're doing something wrong if you aren't there yet. That's my vision. To find happiness, you need to find out what's making you feel sad and realize that it's not sadness, but your body telling you something's got to change.
How do you stop yourself from comparing yourself to other people and their successes? And to be honest, dear viewer, I'm not the right person to ask because this is the sort of deepest thing that I personally have been struggling with for a very long time.
When I compare myself, I'm comparing myself to people who did nothing wrong. I'm comparing myself to people who were born later than me, born better looking than me, born with better like conditions for me, and it enables them to achieve goals before they were truly hungry and desperate for them, and to live the life that I can't forgive myself for not clawing for earlier because I was so preoccupied with things that people have said about me all my life. I think what I'm trying to get at, if I try to spin this into the pain argument from earlier, when you compare yourself to someone, it's helping you identify a deep ache, and it's not necessarily about the individual that you compare yourself to, but it's about diagnosing yourself with exactly what that ache is. For example, if you, let's go back to the Skip Beat again. Let's say that you are in love with someone that you think is out of your league and you're in like a different world. And in Shoto's case, I forgot the villain's name. Was it Shoto? Sho. Yeah. And she thinks that Sho is the best looking guy in the world, and all these girls are after him, and he's a playboy. And how can she compete with him if she's so, you know, lame and homely, just like everyone says? And along the way, she had to have it drilled in her that the pain isn't necessarily Sho is so great. The pain is, I want to stand on that stage and I don't know why yet. So I would say use your comparison as a diagnostic tool to understand the underlying mechanisms of why you hate yourself, and hopefully send that into something productive.
How do you realize that a friendship is at its inevitable end? Brackets, I'm going through this right now. And I'm very sorry because you asked this question months ago and I only found the time to answer it now. In my opinion, this is the type of question that will always be relevant because we will always be getting older and we will always be losing friendships. For me, I've actually had to learn this lesson a lot the past like 3 years of my life so far. And I'll give a few examples just so that you get an idea of what I'm trying to communicate to you.
For me, I am 23 years old this year, and I am someone who has maybe a romantic view on life that if I make friends with someone, we can just like tee-hee, hold hands, stick around, be best friends forever, and we'll always like each other, we'll always make time for each other because we're best friends, right? Most people, you have to realize, especially a person like me who, you know, doesn't really get around that much, chances are, a lot of times, your friends see you as secondary friends and tertiary friends, or even lunchbox school friends. And that's unfortunate, but that is the truth. When I was in my undergraduate years, I was in a friend group with about 7 people, and I thought that we all got along swimmingly. I thought that we were all gonna be friends. I thought, you know, even if we moved across the world, even if we're in different cities, that we'd all be able to, stay friends. And I thought, you know, I did everything right. I tried to be friends with all of you individually. I tried to, you know, hold surprise parties for you guys. I always try to remember, like, when your exams are and all that. And then I'm just realizing, hey, why doesn't anyone ever do that for me? Why doesn't anyone ever initiate plans with me? And after we all graduated college, I expected us to stay friends. And then I realized, oh, the texts are getting more sparse. Even if we're in the same city, you seem to always be busy, but you seem to not be busy for your other friends. That's odd. And so I think that made me really doubt myself and think that there's something wrong with myself. But then I realized, hey, the people from that friend group who are still friends with me, they put in that effort, they still see me, and the friends that I make in the future that don't know me for as long, they love seeing me, and they would inconvenience themselves if they have like their job, or they have to like go somewhere afterwards, they'll still squeeze in the time to see me. And these like small acts of service, right, that I've always been doing, that I just thought I had to do because I'm inherently like, oh, bad. Like just something simple like making the time for lunch, or asking about your day, or giving you a call sometimes. I didn't realize that instead of that being something that's like reserved for like special people who live in like sitcoms, that's just normal for many people. And what I'm trying to say is, there will be many friends who treat you as secondary and tertiary friends, and those are the ones who will drift. But ultimately, you will come across people who treat you with the respect that you deserve, and you will realize that the friends that you've had all along, sometimes they're the ones that you need to open up to, and they won't leave even if you become more, you know, needy. Most people will tell you that friendships are asymmetrical. All relationships are. Person A has X needs, Y schedule, and you have, you know, Y needs, X schedule. And that you shouldn't take it too seriously, or you shouldn't take it too personally.
But I think that that's true, but ultimately not the advice that you need to hear as a person. I think my takeaway is not, oh, adult friendships are hard and they end. It's if you put in the effort, and so do your friends, even if you don't see each other for months, and even if you don't have much to talk about, you'll always be able to stay friends. And that's not optimism, that's just effort. And you deserve someone who puts in as much effort to retain you as you put in effort for them. And if it's asymmetrical, then I don't think you should stay friends. This is also something that I can't really answer. It's how do you deal with not going crazy when you have a crush on someone? Please offer your best coping mechanisms. Dear viewer, has it not occurred to you by now that I am crazy as well? Really? Look, for me, if I have a crush on someone, I'm thinking, oh my god, I want to marry you, I want to have 10 kids with you, I want to fold your laundry, I want to take care of you every day, I want to buy you this and that, I want to buy matching things, I want to do this and that, or whatever. Not that that's happened to me, but yeah, I'm like, I go pretty crazy too. And for me, I think my coping mechanism, instead of the self-loathing cycle of, oh, I'm not good enough for anyone, you're so cool over there and I'm just over here and I'm just me, because that's not really productive. That's letting yourself down gently, but it's also preemptive rejection to protect yourself from actual rejection, which just crushes your self-esteem. Why am I going straight to rejection? It sends a lot. It says a lot about me. I think just listen to songs where the singer is also crazy, and you'll realize, oh, you know, I'm not some like sad, disgusting creature for having a crush. I'm just crazy, and that's normal because most of us are secretly crazy, but we're just too proud to admit it. But I'm shameless, and I don't have that pride. But of course, I've never had a crush on anyone besides my dear viewers before. Okay, this one is kind of a doozy. Is love about accepting someone for who they are, or is love about being willing to change or making compromise? Would you change in the name of love, or would you want to stick with someone who accepts you for you? What would you expect someone to do for you? Does love in itself change people? Once again, I'm not sure why people assume that I can answer these sorts of questions. I'm someone who has a vivid imagination and a very romantic view on the world, so I will do my best anyways. Thank you. In principle, in philosophy, I think that humans are inherently flawed creatures, and there's so much more joy to love someone because they're flawed and have someone love you because you are flawed. I think for qualities like your appearance or your wealth or your body or your status. These are transient things and they can be crippled and removed, even though, of course, you wouldn't be attracted to someone in the first place unless they're good looking or etc. etc. For me, like last year, I asked a friend who randomly accepted a girl's confession, even though they never really showed any interest in that girl. But when I asked, so why did you say yes? The answer was, oh, she's got a nice face. She's pretty. And to be honest, if I were the girl who confessed, I would be quite disappointed. And honestly, I would rethink my decisions because I don't think that's an acceptable answer. I think it's perfectly acceptable to be attracted to someone because of their appearance, but I think it's a horrible reason to accept someone's love because they're pretty. If someone who loved me was asked, why do you love you? And the answer was, he's pretty, I would cry myself to sleep because I certainly don't feel that way on most days. So if your love for me is based on a transient quality that I'm not even confident in myself, I would think that's horrible. So I think that the best, most romantic type of love is loving someone for, the I don't know, like the quirks that they have, like the odd way that they hold their cutlery, or I don't know, like the way their like hair sticks up in the wind or something. I don't know. Those like rom-com tropes. And when it comes to being willing to change, the other day I was having dinner with my friend and I was showing her the questions from my Q&A and we were like talking about them. And I can't go into specifics, but she and her boyfriend are doing long distance and going strong for like over a decade. And, at my age, that's basically your entire life, right? And so she was talking about how, hypothetically, the idea of marriage and having to do that to someone when you're long distance is terrifying because she can't ask someone to commit when her life is up in the air because it would require either her or him to change and to, sacrifice something for the other person's gain. Especially if you are the wife, you will likely be the one doing the sacrificing. And in that sense, changing for marriage, for stability, is terrifying. And I never really thought about it that way. I don't have experience in that, but I'm someone who is an innocent and pure maiden. And in my head, if you like someone, you'll want to marry them immediately and have 10 kids and like sacrifice everything, cross continents and like change careers and like give up your other ambitions just for love, I say in the back seat. But so I asked her, like, out of curiosity for the sake of like the Q&A debate. So I asked her, when you think of your boyfriend though, are you thinking like every time you look at him, wow, I can't bear to be apart from this man. Every time I see him, I want to like fold his underwear and make him soup every day. And I want to transcend what we have now and get married and have the ring because it's proof that we are the closest that we can possibly get in this mortal coil, and I can't stand an alternative where we are not as close as humanly possible. And she looked at me like I was like on drugs. She was like, what? No? What? And I was like, eh? And she was like, why would I want to be someone's servant? Why would I chain myself to a man when all the wives always end up on, doing all the work while all the guys are on the couch, even though he's never done that to me, blah, 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 blah. And I thought that was interesting because in my mind, I always just assumed that like, I don't know, most girls like also have this shoujo manga mindset Because for me, I was raised on shoujo manga. Actually, no, that's not true. I watched like isekai and harem like for most of my life. I didn't start watching like shoujo anime until like 19 years old, and I was like, I don't know. I think it like corrupted my mind into purity. In my head, I think that loving someone for the long-term marriage, I would hope that someone would be willing to change their life and their destiny for me, because it means that I'm like super worthy and that I can finally take a break and I can finally stop trying to improve and like fight for my dreams, and I can just like take a back seat and be I don't know, like a house husband, you know what I mean? And you can be the high power one. I'll just be like someone in the back. But I think it's easy for me to say because I'm a guy and these things are hypothetical.